So diving in. The primary focus of my discussion will cover phishing campaigns, which are leveraging the pandemic lures. And then I'm going to be covering their TTPs and then also malwares being utilized. Then I will briefly touch on the rise of business email compromise. And finally, I'm going to do a quick recap with some mitigations and recommendations. Also, I would like to apologize up front. I am fighting off a terrible cold, so please excuse me if I need a cough or clear my throat. And no, I don't have COVID. I did get tested a few days ago, so we're good there.
Jacqueline, before you move forward, is it possible to get your slides in a full screen?
Oh yeah, it's not in full screen here. Let me see if I can. Here we go.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So who am I? A little bit about myself. So I'm known in the community as Jax, and I have a very diverse background. As Judy-Ann stated, I've spent a majority of my time in the military, cyber, and electronic warfare community, as well as working on a special unit alongside Special Forces operators. During this time, I did found my own business, which is called Outpost Gray, and we focus on security and intelligence operations. Today, I no longer serve in the active duty, yay, but I spend my remaining few years right now in the National Guard serving on a Army cyber unit. Now, my last active duty was working with the Special Forces group out in Europe, where I was actually able to support cyber operations. I returned in late 2019, where I began working with FireEye as a senior analyst. And I loved what I was doing there, but I had a great opportunity to move over to Argus Secure Technology, which allowed me to get back into cyber threat intel, which is where what I really love doing. And then I was able to start working with financial institutions. So I also run my own tech blog. It's called Beans and Bytes blog. So please go check that out. I love what I do, like I said, so I'm very excited to share some of my knowledge with you guys and be able to learn from each of you. So let's go ahead and dig into this. I love this quote because this truly brings everything to a perspective to what we as cyber leaders deal with on a daily basis. Our weakest link is the associate who is indeed educated, but is still enticed by that luring emotional trigger link. Am I right? Therefore, human error is the #1 vulnerability, leaving our systems at risk to cyber attacks. We see it all the time. Although we can't fix human error, what we can do is we can educate ourselves and understand our adversaries' TTPs while maintaining good cyber hygiene. As you've heard throughout the other briefs, COVID-19 pandemic has delivered extraordinary challenges for cybersecurity leaders around the world. So what I wanted to do is provide you with some really quick numbers to bring reality of this growing cyber challenge in the midst of this pandemic. To Terry's brief, and we did not corroborate our briefs. Last month, the FBI did report that their cybercrime division was getting swamped with reports on cybercrime. They were actually reporting that they were receiving about 4,000 cybercrime reports. And as you saw in his slide, that's up from 400 from an average day. However, that is down from what they reported in May, which was right around 800. That's not saying that it's decreasing, it's just saying that their workload is getting a little bit better. Now there is a poll that a few seconds to do that, and I will take a drink of my warm coffee. We'll wait for that result. Perfect. Yep, you guys nailed it. Healthcare. Healthcare, as you can imagine, is on the rise and is being targeted primarily because of COVID-19, not only with the testing pools that are being opened, but you've got other healthcare related issues that are associated with COVID that are bringing individuals in. Stefan was even speaking about it when there was an influx of individuals coming back from the holidays. The healthcare as a whole is being oversaturated, and there are a lot of vulnerabilities with this. And then following obviously right behind it is the financial institutions. So this last number right here, why it's important is because cyber leaders have identified, and we're struggling with identifying what are the legitimate COVID websites versus illegitimate or malicious credential harvesting websites. When COVID kicked off, NDRs were on the rise. There was 116,000 new NDRs that spurred up just because of COVID-19. This has become extremely challenging for us to be able to identify what are those legitimate websites and what are the ones that are possibly credential harvesting sites. I wanted to provide you all with a couple of examples because with phishing, it's not a one size fit all. Once you see one phishing attack, you see one phishing attack. This right here, this is an example of a phishing theme actually targeting the UK government agenda. This campaign was using what we call a smishing. It is phishing through SMS to lure the victim to click. Basically, in here, they are participating in a theme that was using the UK government aid being initiated at the start of COVID. Now, if the victim actually did click on this link, what it would do is it would bring them and redirect them to what we call as a spoof login web page, which appears to include a password entry for credential harvesting. Pardon me. Simply put, the victim would go in here, add in their information, and then their data would be basically given over to the threat actor to obtain their credentials. The next example is an example being utilized for targeting victims about business grants and loans, which were leveraging the stimulus package. On the left-hand side is what we're seeing as the top threats leveraging COVID, and this data was pulled from FS-ISAC as of August. As you can see, remote access exploits are number one, where phishing is number two. And just to be clear, a remote exploit works over a network and exploits the security vulnerabilities without any prior access to the vulnerability system. So you can imagine this is kind of a big deal for being a top threat, and it's one of the number one things that are being leveraged within COVID. So we can all say that money during any time of our lives is stressful, but add a pandemic, a loss of a job to the mix, and then you have an insurmountable stress. Well, actors are leveraging this emotional time with COVID attacks, focusing on stimulus checks, loans, finances, or even job searchers. So the data on the right was pulled from FS-ISAC from their August numbers. And what this data shows at the top is the top domains that are being targeted in August were indeed loans and financing. Now, this could be a myriad of reasons. I'm suspecting that it's probably due to loss of work and the need for personal loans, or maybe for many Americans, they're doing a lot of refinancing on their home mortgages because of the really extremely low rates. Now, it's not surprising to me or anybody probably on this call that financing and loans are at a 44% of the target industry or target domains. Now, the primary malware being utilized to target these domains include obviously our famous Emotet, Agent Tesla, you've got Quackbot, and then you've got Ruick ransomware. On the bottom down there, you also have insurance at 14% with Emotet, Quackbot, and Queller, and then general business at 12%. And those are the two malwares we generally see targeting that industry, which is, again, Emotet and Agent Tesla. So cyber attacks are a business. COVID-19 has enticed many threat actors into the pandemic phishing game. These lures have been extremely effective for every type of threat actor, which is making it even more challenging for us as cybersecurity leaders to identify these TTPs. Spammers are the most common. They obviously do their spray and pray techniques. Next, we're seeing BC actors. A couple of threat groups we're seeing are Nigerian and some more less sophisticated groups. Also, many times, just to take note, BEC emails, they don't include a payload and instead are really focused on just financial gain, getting that money using a lure to get a credit card, gift card paid to them. Scale actors is a term most seen within the community to describe threat groups scaling into COVID-19. Remember, this is a business. These threat groups are moving to where the money flows. So groups like T8542 or T8505, we're starting to see them blending their workflow into more COVID-19 themed attacks. Target actors are those groups we most likely fear. These are the sophisticated groups and possibly funded by large amounts of money. And then finally, as we all know, the last group would be an APT, also known as a state group like APT-10, which this group is really focused on large destructive impact. Now I want to jump into different TTPs that we're seeing being utilized to be successful within these COVID-19 campaigns. The most prevalent technique we have seen targeting financial institutions includes phishing emails with malicious attachments to include a macro-enabled Excel file or a Microsoft Word document. Another is malicious URLs to redirect the victim to a spoof domain, similar to the example you saw earlier. Credential harvesting can be accomplished through the spoof domain or even through a jobbler. The next is the rise of BEC and email fraud used to leverage executive positions. And next, file names. We're seeing a common trend with threat groups using COVID-themed file names. And finally, domain names. As you saw in the earlier slide, there are over 116,000 new domains that were created using the word COVID or CONA, and many of these are and still are being utilized in malicious ways. I wanted to do a quick technical overview of TTPs being utilized for malware download using phishing. Now keep in mind, this is a high-level view and I'm keeping it very simple on purpose, so don't judge me. I'm not an extremely technical person, but I do understand how the malwares are being downloaded, and understanding this is imperative as cybersecurity leaders to understand how we can combat these threat actors and their TTPs. So downloaders, as you can see in the top layer, is also known as the first stage payload. It is becoming one of the most popular deployment methods within the COVID-19 phishing campaigns. An example of this could be a phishing email being sent using a malicious Excel file with macros. The user would receive the malicious document, but the first stage downloader, for it to be downloaded, they would need to actually enable those macros onto their system. To do so, they would engage the secondary downloader, such as ransomware, to be downloaded onto the computer. For example, let's say Drydex was the downloader, the initial stage. So then the second downloader, the payload, would download from the C2 server, and it would say it's BitPaymer ransomware. Once ransomware is downloaded onto the system, the threat actor can now move laterally within the networks. Now we're down into the third phase of this. So you've got a threat actor within your network, and the dwell time, which is stated in FireEye's most recent MTrends report, the average dwell time is 56 days for a threat actor to be onto your network before it's identified. That's a long time and a lot of data that could be collected and lost if this is not mitigated from your endpoints or before the threat actor is even able to penetrate your network. The reason that I put the BEC versus phishing in here is it's important to understand the difference of these two. And I've received a lot of questions on this. I've been in working groups, and this is something that isn't easily answered. So I just want to provide you a very simple explanation of this. So the largest difference between BEC and phishing attacks is a BEC attack. The threat group has a focus group of targets. Usually they leverage somebody that's in high power to spoof their emails, such as an executive or a C-suite person. There is a rise of BEC attacks that we're seeing within the financial institution, and a lot of these are tied to COVID-19. I believe And many researchers believe this is also due to the work from home life. You have that separation between your associates and maybe your boss, and they're receiving an email to purchase a gift card from somebody. So the BEC attacks are becoming more prevalent and also more successful. They still use a phishing-like theme, meaning it is going to come in an email form and it is going to look legitimate, but the difference is it's going to be typically spoofed from somebody in a senior leadership position. So we've seen the spread of COVID is starting to look like it's coming under control in certain areas of the world, but cyber criminals are not slowing down their spread of crime, and they never will. Instead, e-criminals are actually boosting their attacks at an alarming rate, and we're seeing this. And so, and you've heard it in the other briefs today, we need to be more proactive as cyber leaders by understanding their TTPs, and that will allow us to strengthen our organization and increase our cyber hygiene. All right, so if you didn't know that there was a problem, you do now through this brief. So we all want to protect ourselves and our brand. Not only is we're always thinking about financial loss as the big impact, but to many organizations that are out there that have loyalty within their brand, losing that loyalty within their brand could cost them a lot of financial, could be a huge financial loss for them outside of just losing finances as a whole. So I want to do a quick recap, and then I want to go into some recommendations and mitigations to help assist you in your organization to better prepare for these threat actors. So bottom line, threat actors are not going away. COVID, if it goes away, the question is what's next? The COVID-19 outbreak is truly testing banks' operational resilience and continuity plans in unprecedented ways. I've seen it. With more customers and employees working remotely, banks are working hard to ensure their safety for reorganizing workflows and considering extreme scenarios not often built into their existing business continuity plans. So things to consider. A possible second wave of COVID-19. It's possibly going to happen. Also meaning this could mean that threat actors could go back, refine their TPs, and come back stronger. Also, BEC, it will continue to rise. We will see merging threats and more hybrid threats out there. And then remember, cyber threat is a business, and everyone wants a piece of the pandemic pie. How are you going to protect yourselves from these emerging threats? Top things every organization and intel cell should be doing is staying abreast of the emerging threats and warnings. This is the number one thing. We've got to be smarter. It's a cat and mouse game. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure and Security Agency, CISA, they do a phenomenal job at providing relevant information. And if you haven't gone on there, I would recommend it. Also, FSISAC is a wealth of knowledge, and it's a free resource for anyone that works within the financial institution. Also, we need to develop our public and private sector relationships. Our private sector abilities will only go so far. I saw this as a massive gap working in the military and the public sector. The organizations that I have seen that are most successful at fighting these threat actors are those who have a strong private and public partnership. And then lastly, enable your threat hunt teams and your analysis teams to have the necessary tools and autonomy and support to be proactive and thwart these threats. Ensure your cyber incident and event management team is well diverse in managing alerts, and ensure your team that they're trained when they actually do receive an alert and an alert comes into the queue and it's of a high alert. Really and truly the key to beating these threat groups is collaboration and training and knowledge. We don't know what we don't know. And this is a never ending cat and mouse game. It will never end. I don't know if it ever will, maybe with quantum computing when it comes out, but that'll probably create a new set of problems for us.